You're heading towards a pretty major assessment, so now might be a time to think how you're going to approach the assessment. So here I'm switching from the first topic from before, revision in general, now onto the assessments, before later I'll get to, of course, specific topics. So what about the assessment? Most important thing, you've got it. Answer the question. Nothing else matters if you fail to do this. You come to the topic with your ideas about what the question will be. Many people, perhaps about 10% of the work I mark, have failed to understand the question. About 10% of the work I mark is by people who fail to understand the question. You're philosophers, so understanding a question will often take in itself a significant amount of reflection and time. Allow time to be sure that you've really understood the question. Get to know that question. Roll it around in your head. Be sure that the thing that you're writing about is really the question that you've been asked and not something that you thought about from before, not something you prepared in advance. The next thing to note is that some questions are easier than others. That's to say, they're harder to fail and also harder to excel in. This sometimes surprises people when I say this, because they sort of expect, oh, you know, all the questions, surely they should be like about the same. But not at all. You see, I know from this course and many other courses that I've taught that some people are going to walk into the assessment amazingly well prepared, having done fabulous revision. And of course, I want those people to be able to demonstrate their understanding and knowledge. But I also know that some people have got other things in their lives than mind and reality, than philosophy even. And they're going to walk into the room feeling desperately underprepared. And I really hate to fail people. So what I do is I drop some questions in, which I think are the kind of more or less easy, obvious topics to go for, probably from more the beginning of the course than the end of the course, for example, the kind of thing that I would expect people who are low confidence and not particularly well prepared to be able to have a reasonable crack at. But if you've been working super hard and you've gained really deep knowledge, it might be difficult for you to go all out on that question. Now, there's always surprises, there's always novel possibilities, but just be aware when you're selecting a question, whether you're selecting a question because you're relatively unprepared and you're looking for something straightforward that's harder to fail, or whether you're super well prepared and you're looking for a question which allows you to excel on. Be sure about what you're taking there. Related to that, this is something again that affects a very small minority of people. Don't expect high marks for easy answers. If you're doing a piece of thinking and the thinking is fairly easy and everything seems obvious, you're not likely to get a good mark. Now it's true. In my classes, I have taught my seminars, I have taught a fair number of geniuses over the years, and so it is possible that if it seems easy to you, that's because you're specially talented. That's possible. But for the most part, a good rule of thumb certainly applies to me. If it seems easy, it is easy, and so it's not worth very much. It's not worth very much. This to me is a surprising one. I never thought I'd say this because I'm not a fan of, you know, sort of bureaucratic proposals and all the rest of it. So when the philosophy department introduced standardized marking criteria, I thought to myself, you know, that's going to be nonsense. But you know what? They're amazingly useful. They're amazingly useful. I think they do an extraordinarily good job of capturing what we as examiners are looking for in your work. Are they perfect? No, but they're actually extremely useful. And when I am grading work, I've usually got these open on a screen next to your work, and I'm looking through them and thinking about where you are in each of the 4 categories. Now there's a link below this video to these marking criteria. I do encourage you, when you're thinking about your assessments, to have a look at the marking criteria and to see what we're going for. I should say that the marking criteria are extraordinarily long, and you don't need to read them all. Just have a look at the marking criteria for the first class grades. Just look at the first or second page for the first class grades. That will tell you everything that you need to know. Why am I saying that? Well, if you're the kind of student who's not aiming high, you're not watching this video at all in the first place. This is the wrong video for you. Most people watching this video are aiming high. Will you succeed? Maybe not. Right? Maybe not. A lot of people are aiming high and not going to do especially well. That's okay. It's important to try. But you are aiming to do well. And so when you look at these marking criteria, look for the top standard and aim for that. Aim for that. And that will tell you everything that you need to know. There's very little point in going down and reading about the lower standards. I might have mentioned this before, but the most important thing here is that you answer the question. Everything you say should be directly and manifestly related to the question that you have been set. About 10% of the work I read every year, I add the comment, it would have been much better if you had answered the question. This, I think, again, is something which is only really relevant to a small minority of people. There are people who think that philosophy as a discipline is somehow about, what people think, what maybe great people think or ordinary people think, who knows. That's not really what philosophy is about. And you'll notice when you get the questions that none of them are about you, right? How do you feel about this? What do you think about that? I never set those questions because, to be honest, I'm not that interested. I don't think that that's going to get us very far. And indeed, later in this, tomorrow's lecture, there is a section called Limits of Philosophical Methods, where I can provide some justification for this view. So when you're writing the essay, don't give me an opinion. Don't give me an opinion. Don't tell me what you think, and I'll do the same for you. You also note, of course, that the essays are not about me either. So it won't particularly help you in writing your essays to tell me what I think, any more it will help you to tell me what you think. Neither of those things are of philosophical interest. Neither of those things are of philosophical interest. The last thing I must mention, this is very important, I might have said this before, but it's the most important thing. Answer the question. Ensure that everything you write is absolutely focused on answering the question that you have been set. That is the thing that you're being assessed on. Now, there's a couple of frequently asked questions that you might want to consider. One of them is whether you can write on the same topic that you have written on before in a previous seminar essay, which is not assessed, or a previous piece of assessed work. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Indeed, you're sort of encouraged to do this. So one of the reasons why I ask you to do this weekly seminar writing task is so that you can have a quick exploration of many different topics, and that will help you to filter out what do you think is interesting, where did it go well, what do you think is not that interesting for you, what do you not want to go back to. So indeed, I encourage you, where it's appropriate, to write on the same topic that you've written on before. That was part of the point of writing on it in the first place. Then there's a related question. This is the last question, and then I'll stop. Can I cut and paste from an essay that I submitted earlier? And the answer to that is not if it was an assessed essay. So work that's already been submitted for an assessment and you've been given a grade on, that counts towards your final degree, you cannot then recycle that and get assessed on that work again. And indeed, if you do that, your essay will be treated as if that work were not included at all, and you could be in trouble for academic integrity. So please don't do that. That's a very bad thing, right? Very naughty. However, there's also a good thing to do, which is you've written a seminar essay. Now, that's not an assessed piece of work. That's really between you and me, right? No one really knows what's in that essay, apart from me or your seminar tutor and you. And the part of the point of these seminar essays is that we're working up towards a larger thing. So there's nothing at all wrong with reusing that material. Now, most people who've taken the trouble to watch this video are probably not going to cut and paste. You're going to want to rewrite and revise and extend and develop it. But there's nothing wrong with cutting and pasting from an essay as long as it wasn't assessed. Marvellous. So I hope these are a few tips to help you with the assessment. There isn't actually very much to say about this in general. So let's move on to the next section and think about particular topics.